Hello, everybody. This is Catholic Dad, episode number 208. Go to hell. So, I don't know if anybody's ever read Solzhenitsyn, Alexander Solzhenitsyn. He was the great Russian dissident. He was a good communist. He was a good atheist, and he kind of essentially was very loyal to the state in Soviet Russia. But he was a good man intrinsically. I know it's hard for Catholics to say that communists are good men, but Solzhenitsyn is one of the greatest, writers of all time, one of the greatest Catholic theologians of the 20th century, essentially. And he, essentially, what he did was he criticized Stalin for murdering so many Russians, all the good Russians, in a private letter to one of his friends, and he got thrown in a gulag. And within the gulag, he he got thrown in the gulag for criticizing Stalin. He was there for 8 years. He got cancer. He got lymphoma, almost died, and he got 8 years to think about what was wrong with Soviet Russia, what was wrong with his nation, and what was wrong with himself. And so what he did was he quietly prayed and meditated for, I don't know, 8 years. And you know what he figured out? He figured out this. He was trying to figure out what was wrong with Russia, what was wrong with communism, and why it occurred. And he determined the problem with Russia was Alexander Solzhenitsyn, that he was the problem, that he capitulated to the evils of Soviet style communism, and he never stood up, and he kind of went along with everybody else, and that he was one of the sheep. And when he was one of the sheep, he could either been rewarded greatly and become a great gulag architect, and he could have been a gulag prison guard, and he could have been rewarded handsomely. Or he could have ended up a prison guard based upon, did anybody hear a private conversation? And he was fortunate enough, and I say fortunate enough, and not in jest, I say it absolutely with complete honesty. He was fortunate enough to be persecuted by the state of Soviet Russia and up in a gulag with lymphoma, to think and pray and figure out what is wrong with Soviet Russia. And he determined what was wrong with Soviet Russia was him. And so when I say go to hell, Alexander Solzhenitsyn went to hell virtually. I mean, humans can almost recreate hell if you think about it. If you think about the Soviet prison camps, if you think about the Nazi prison camps, the gas chambers, and they killed people. Endless people got murdered in the 20th century, and they got murdered just for being themselves, for being righteous dissidents, for being adversaries of the state. And he wasn't even an adversary of the state. He was a good communist who said, "Why are we killing so many people?" And he got 8 years to think about it, and he also got cancer to think about it. And he descended to the depths of his own soul. And he descended to hell, like Christ did, for 3 days. But he did it for 8 years. And when he arose out of hell, when he arose out of that the quietness, that prayerful, internal introspection, he realized that he was the problem. The reason why he was the problem is because this creep that evil has in the world, the creep that they want you to accept certain things in the world and make them normalized, and they won't go too far, because if they go too far, somebody's going to step up and smack you down. And what they're going to do is going to make you accept little things, like they're going to try to humanize certain positions that you should not accept. And if they humanize it, it will become more palatable, because you don't want to beat up on people. You don't want to be uncompassionate. You don't want to be intolerant. And the devil works that way. It's very insidious. And if you capitulate to evil, which everybody does every single day, I'm not pointing fingers here. I'm not trying to judge anybody. I'm Catholic Dad. I capitulate to evil. Everybody capitulates to evil, because it's hard to live your life and not be slightly tolerant of certain evil positions. I mean, you can't fight every battle. But I'm going to encourage you, by the way, to go down to hell. I'm going to encourage you to go to hell and look at yourself. Are there points in your life where you capitulate where you shouldn't? Are there points in life where, you hear somebody say something and you're like, I have a good sales job, I'm selling things, but somebody went a little too far with morality, and I don't agree with that, and it's like you have a decision now. I'm going to compromise my job if I stand up for what's right, or I'm going to just quietly consent to it because I want to keep my job. And if you quietly consent, that's how Soviet Russia occurs. Soviet Russia was quiet consent. It was. And it wasn't enough people standing up. And so when Solzhenitsyn determined it was him, he determined it was quiet consent. It was this quiet, like, I'm not going to stand up and I'm not going to say what I truly believe because I don't want to like mess up my own life. I don't want to harm my future earnings. I don't, you name it. There's a lot of self-interested motives we have. And so I'm going to encourage all people out there, whether you're Catholic or not, if you see something that you think is morally depraved, like complete depravity, that people are trying to normalize, just say you don't agree with that. You don't have to sit there and say you're evil and I hate you. You don't have to say that. Say, are you sure you agree with that? Like, why would you say such things? Like, didn't God make us this way or that way? Aren't we like humans and we're supposed to do what's right and good? Aren't we supposed to care for our responsibilities? I mean, abortion's a good example, by the way. Like 50% of the United States of America believe killing a child in the womb is normalized behavior. I'll tell you what, like for us as Americans, and we sit there all proud and we're like, I'm proud of my nation or whatever else, it's the greatest nation in the world. If 50% of the body politic believes murdering babies is normalized, perhaps we need to be a little more introspective because that's insane. I mean, that's insanity in the highest degree. And I cannot believe, and it's actually a majority of women, by the way. Like, here's the gatekeepers of the future generation that think it's normalized. And so if that's normalized behavior, then Americans are not doing enough stepping up and saying the right thing, going, I don't agree. And you don't have to agree. Like, you don't have to agree like you're an idiot and I hate you. What you could say is, that's not normal. We're supposed to care for our weakest and most sensitive and most, vulnerable. And how about we start doing that together? Here, give me your hand. Just reach a hand out. Reach the hand out and say, I love you and I'm going to help you. And we're going to care for that future generation together. That's what we're going to do. Hillary Clinton said, it takes a village. You know what? Yeah. No, it takes parents is what it takes. But I'll tell you what, it takes a church community. That's what it takes. And so when she was talking about a village, if she was talking about the church community, that's great. If she was talking about the authoritarian force of the state, no, that's bad. And so this is Catholic Dad making you think about it. Everybody needs to go to hell because Solzhenitsyn realized the Russian fall was his own fault. The American fall is our own fault. It is. It's my fault. I capitulate way too much. And let's think about that. So this is Catholic Dad. Get the Mass, pray the daily rosary, share with your friends, and like or subscribe. God bless.